Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NFL and NBA. Got a brand new video for you guys. We're going to discuss what may be some of the best plays we may have available to us this week for the tight ends and defenses in this week, week 6 of the NFL. But before I get started with that video, I appreciate you guys drop a like. And if you have not, as of yet, join the community here at DFS Zone down below. Click that subscribe button if you don't mind. Put on your bell notifications. This way you don't miss out on any of my NFL or NBA videos as well as live shows. I have a live show where we go over the slate for the NFL every Saturday night at 7 p.m. For a good hour and a half, we're discussing the game stacks, team stacks. We're discussing value plays. We're discussing different types of plays all over. The 4 o'clock slate, the 4:35 express slate, you name it. Sometimes the Sunday, Monday slate. It's just a great time. Definitely perfect for those who are new to NFL DFS. They want to be able to get a little insight, want to learn a little bit from some of the people in the community. We learn from one another and we feed from one another, and that carries on into the NBA season, where you get a video every day for every slate. On top of that, I will make myself available to have at least minimum 4 live shows per week, 1 hour before lock of the NBA season, all throughout the NBA season. It's going to be a lot of work, but again, I'm more than happy to do it. Come along, join the community, join DFS Zone, subscribe down below, put on your post notifications, and this way you don't miss out on any of that content, all right? Tight ends and defenses. Let's go over the tight ends, man. So tight ends this week. You could pay up at tight end if you wish. I am not feeling all these guys up here, to be honest with you. Eric Ebron at 6,500, a little pricey, going up against the Jets. The Jets are actually 3rd or 4th best as far as the least amount of fantasy points given up to tight ends. So, granted, they haven't played a whole lot of tight end oriented offenses, which I would definitely see that I will believe that Indianapolis is, especially that Mr. Hilton is out. So they're going to need to throw the Ebron. He's definitely not someone that I would say you cannot target. Obviously, he's in a perfect position with the injuries to be able to be one of the main targets for Andrew Luck. But I think the Jets are going to know. I mean, actually, the Jets are the team I root for. The Jets, I think they're going to definitely build and know that they have an opportunity here, that if they shut down and neutralize a little bit Ebron here, that there's a possibility they'll make the game a lot more easier for themselves. So I'm not willing to pay $6,500 for him. There's definitely some plays down here below that are better. I'm not on Cook this week, not on Reed. I think Rudolph is not a bad spot, but I'm definitely willing to fade away from the 6,200 range and get down here a little bit lower. Burton is not a bad play either against Miami, but Miami's another team that's done very well against tight ends thus far this year. But I definitely love Austin Hooper here. At 5,600, he's my first top guy that I would consider on this slate. He's 5,600 here. He's 3,500, man. He's actually 2,100 cheaper on DK. That is a great price for him on DK. 5,600 here. I'm willing to take roll the dice on him here in this matchup. Going up, I mean, granted, you pretty much if you've seen pretty much my videos thus far this week, I definitely have targeted some Atlanta and Tampa Bay players. Obviously, I think it's a good game to target, but Austin Hooper is definitely in a good position here. He had 12 targets last week. We know we're not going to get that all the time, but I like the fact is that he is getting targeted, and this is a great matchup for him, man, too. He has 27 targets thus far this year, 21 receptions, 202 yards. He's averaging 9.6 yards per catch, and he's putting up 40.4 yards per game. Now, when it comes to tight ends, for those especially the new, for me, I'd rather pay down on the tight end. My mindset on the tight ends is that I look for a favorable matchup. I look for a tight end that definitely gets targeted at least 4 to 6 or 7 times a game, if possible. And I like the fact is I also look for tight ends that have had success in the red zone and that are normally targeted there, because you basically want to get at least a touchdown out of them. If you can get a touchdown and you can get 3 or 4 receptions and he is able to give you 30 or 40 or more yards, that's going to turn out to be a great play, especially if you're paying $5,000 or lower here on Fanduel for a tight end, and he gets you that kind of value, and you're getting that even cheaper on DK. So that's what I look for when it comes to tight ends. I don't necessarily have to pay up all the time. Last week I did with Zach Ertz. I played him in some of my lineups, and then I had the other guys below him that I was interested as well. But he turned out to be great because he's highly targeted tight end. But here, Hooper, I think he's just in a great spot, man. I love the fact is that he's one that they definitely look for in the red zone. He's had 4 touches in the red zone, 4 targets, 2 receptions, 11 yards. He has had 1 TD. Inside the 10, same thing pretty much. he's done better when he's gotten closer and inside the 10. I just, he's only putting up, I mean, as you can see, he got 12 and 14 two times here. So, I mean, definitely doesn't have a great floor. He's capable of just getting you 2 or 3 any given week, but he has been able to get you 12 to 14. And again, I'll be happy if he can get 30 or 40 yards, 3 or 4 receptions, and get a touchdown, and that will be good enough for me, and I think it's good enough for anybody as far as getting that kind of fantasy point total from a tight end. Tampa Bay, gave you all the information before, but I run it again. They're 29th in pass defense, 358 yards per game, giving up 13 TDs. Versus tight ends, they've given up 27 receptions, so he's definitely in line. They've been vulnerable in giving up a lot of receptions to tight ends. 415 total yards to tight ends, 2 TDs out of those 13 have come from the tight ends thus far this year. 20.9 DK points and 16.8 Fanduel points is second most in the NFL to tight ends. So obviously, I know Atlanta knows this, and they're definitely going to have him. Now, granted, he's more of a check down tight end. Pretty much all the ones I'm going to discuss today are pretty much those kind of guys, but they are guys that are targeted quite a bit when they're in the red zone. Red zone opportunities, Tampa Bay has given up a ton. 92.3% of the time, the opponents are getting to the red zone, they have scored a touchdown. 3 TDs out of 3.5 opportunities. And Atlanta, in the red zone, 65% complete conversion rate there as an offense, 4 opportunities per game, just 2 touchdowns and a field goal. They definitely need to improve there. But I think that Austin Hooper here has an awesome opportunity to get a couple of touches and can possibly get in the red zone and be targeted for a touchdown. And I'll be more than happy to get that out of him. I think he's a fine play for us here. He's my first tight end this week. My second tight end, I love David Njoku. I've given you guys him twice already. I told you with Baker Mayfield. I'm not going to put him as one of my guys, but I do plan to have him in some of my lineups. So I definitely like him. I'm not going to take him here. I'm going to suggest here CJ Uzomah. CJ Uzomah is my next guy. And CJ here, you know what? Again, when it comes to CJ, I think he's just a guy that eventually, now with Eifert hurt, he's going to start getting some targets. Now, granted, he's nothing flashy, a very small sample so far. Last week, he did get 43 yards on 2 receptions and 2 targets. He's not getting in the end zone, only 1 touchdown. Again, that's one of the criteria I look for. I think just because of the matchup at home, Cincinnati, big game for them. If they win this game, I can see them getting in the red zone because they're capable of getting in the red zone. They're converting 70% of the time, Cincinnati, in the red zone. And he's been targeting the red zone 1 time. Got that 1 reception. It was for 1 yard, and he got the 1 touchdown. So that 1 touchdown, actually, that you see right here, was the 1-yard reception in the red zone. He has had 10 targets, not a whole lot, very small sample for 4 or 5 games. 9 receptions, 117 yards, 1 TD. He's averaging 13 yards per catch, which is pretty good. He's capable of getting you, as you can see, I think he's capable of getting you 9 to 10. Again, when it comes to tight ends like this, basically you want to do is get 30 to 40 yards like he did here in his previous game, but get a little bit more targets. If he can get 6 to 7 targets and get 4 or 5 receptions and get in the end zone, I'll be very happy at 5,100. But I think this is a great matchup against Pittsburgh. They're 30th in pass defense, 296 yards per game, 13 TDs is tied for most in the NFL. Versus the tight ends have had 40 receptions against the Steelers. So Cincinnati should know this. They should have a game plan to definitely neutralize and definitely use CJ Uzomah in this game. 40 receptions, 424 yards, 3 touchdowns given up to tight ends this year, 20.7 DK points and 16.1 Fanduel points. Those are massive points from the tight end position, which on the average is about 5 or 6 fantasy points a game. I think last year the base average was about 8 or 9 a game. So, I mean, again, we're not going to get a whole ton of fantasy points from tight ends, but if they're in favorable matchups and we can see that their offense will definitely put them as part of their offense, especially in the red zone, you got to take advantage of it because you're looking for that 1 touchdown that can get them from 5-6 points to 12 points. Red zone opportunities, opponents have been getting this 52.6% of the time, so the Steelers have done okay in the red zone as far as defending it. 3.5 possessions per game in the red zone for the opposition. They're only going in there and scoring only 2 times. Cincinnati, though, when they've been in the red zone, they've been pretty good. 70.5%, nearly 71% conversion rate in the red zone. 3.5 opportunities per game and getting 2 touchdowns and a field goal. I just want them to just get Mr. CJ near that red zone and give him an opportunity to put one in the end zone once again, and I'll be more than happy. I think he's in a good position here, high-scoring game. Pittsburgh is vulnerable against tight ends. They're vulnerable against pass-oriented teams. They're coming in there. Cincinnati is one of the better teams. I think they're 6th or 7th in total offense as far as passing offense. I think it's a great spot for CJ. So lock in Mr. CJ there for a couple of lineups if you wish. My last guy I'm going to talk about is same game with Atlanta, Mr. Cameron Brate. 4,500 for Cameron Brate. He's 37 on DK. He's another guy that gets targeted in the red zone. Very small sample thus far this year. I mean, they're coming off a bye, so he's well rested. 4 targets, 3 receptions, 29 yards, 1 touchdown last game. I love the fact he's gotten 1 touchdown a game, and that's what I'm looking for. And that's what everybody should be looking for. He has had 10 targets the entire year in 3 games, 6 receptions, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns, 10.5 yards per catch. He's averaging 7.1 fantasy points, and as you can see, he's had 2 games in a row at 10 plus. So he's capable of getting you 11 or better, and he's capable of being a red zone target. And then I looked in a little bit further. Red zone targets this year, 3 targets, 2 receptions, 20 yards, 2 touchdowns. So these 2 touchdowns have been in the red zone. He's with his guy. Winston loves him, targets him in the red zone. Going back to last year, he had 5 touchdowns in the red zone for this team last year. All right, with Jameis Winston as the quarterback. So I love it. He's in a perfect spot. He's probably the best play out of the 3 I'm giving you, but I think all 3 have excellent opportunities to score a touchdown at least as a tight end this week and get some yardage as well. 24, they're going up against Atlanta, as we know. 24th in pass defense, 277 yards per game, 12 TDs. Versus tight ends, the tight ends have had 23 receptions on them, 229 yards and 1 touchdown, 10.4 DK points and 8.1 Fanduel points. Not anywhere near the same as Tampa Bay and the other 2 teams. But again, they haven't really faced a team that is pass-oriented and at the same time a team that definitely gets their tight end involved, especially in the red zone. He gets targeted there. I love the whole idea of having Cameron Brate get into that 20-yard line and get it in. Atlanta's opposition, 80.9, pretty much 81% of the time they score in the red zone, which I've discussed this in previous videos earlier in the week regarding the quarterbacks and running backs. 4 opportunities per game, 3 touchdowns, and a field goal. That is crazy. They're giving up a crazy amount of red zone opportunities, and the red zone opportunities, they just coughing them up. 81% of the time. Tampa Bay also 50% in the red zone. They need to improve that. They got to take advantage of the opportunities in this game, especially if they want to beat Atlanta in Atlanta. 50% conversion for them. 3.5 opportunities per game, only a field goal and a touchdown every time they get down there. That's not quite enough. But if they do, I want Mr. Cameron Brate to be able to get those touches there, especially in the red zone. So that's what I have there for tight ends. I really like those guys. Those I think are 3 fine plays. Any one of those 3 I think are capable of getting a touchdown and a few receptions. They're going to be targeted a few times. They're not going to get 12, 15 targets in these matchups. They're not. This is not Zach Ertz or anything like that. But I believe they're going to get opportunities to get a touchdown. Defensively. Defenses, man, basically plain and simple. I am going to stick with the Chicago Bears. They're my first choice. Houston Texans, pretty good spot at home. But I'm not going to, any one of these fairly good defenses. I'd rather pay down a few $100s. Chicago Bears are the best defense in the NFL right now. They're number 1 in total defense, number 2 in pass, and number 1 in rushing defense. Only giving up 231 yards per game, 8 touchdowns, though, with the pass. And their rushing defense is only allowing 64 yards per game with 0 TDs. Going up against Miami, Miami's pass offense, 26th in the league, and their rushing offense, 21st in the league. They've given up 11 sacks per game, and they're going up against a team that has had 18 sacks. They're also going up against a team that has had 13 or better in 4 straight games fantasy-wise. They get nearly 4 sacks on the average per game. And obviously a lot of that has to do with Mr. Mack, Khalil Mack. So again, man, I got a little brain feast there. Sorry about that. But Khalil Mack, you got Khalil Mack doing this, and he has just turned his defense around. They are just playing. I mean, they've given up 10, 14, 17, 24 points. And that first 24 points, that was way back on September the 9th. They've been absolutely sizzling as a defense since then. They're just getting better and better, only 16.3 points per game. So again, I love the whole matchup. Miami, you know, they're just not one of the better. There's nobody in Miami to scare you. I mean, the backfield, you know, Drake and Gore finally teamed up and had a great game against Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's defense is not the same as Chicago, man. Until I see somebody beat up on Chicago or show me that they can run on them efficiently or pass on them efficiently, I'm going to probably play them against pretty much anybody right now. So the Chicago Bears are definitely a lock for me, man. Just plain and simple. It's just they're in a good spot. They also give away takeaways. They're fantastic. They're +6 in that area. 8 interceptions, 3 fumbles, 11 total takeaways. You know, and then again, like I said, 18 sacks. You cannot go wrong with that. My next choice at defense, plain and simple, I think it's the second best defense in the NFL, is the Baltimore Ravens. They've been solid. As you can see here, only giving up 15 points on average per game to the opponents. Defensive game coming up against Tennessee. Tennessee does not give up a whole lot of points either, but I think Baltimore is the better team offensively. I think they're going to get more of the points, and they'll pull this one out. But they're going again, Baltimore, man. Baltimore is number 6 in pass defense and then number 6 in rushing defense. 88.4 yards per game and 2 touchdowns on the run. 215 yards per game and 6 TDs. A total of only 8 altogether, just like Chicago. They have 15 sacks. That's the 6th most in the league. And they're going up against the Tennessee Titans, who are 15th in rushing, 107 yards per game, 27th against the pass. They're the 27th pass offense in the league. So, I mean, when you have that weak of a pass defense, your running game is about mid-tier, and you got somebody here that obviously can defend that rush and can defend that pass and is well-balanced. And like I said at the beginning, when it comes to defenses, I love a balanced defense and a defense that can create turnovers as well as get those sacks, put some pressure on the team. This team definitely is one of those teams that put a little bit of pressure. 15 sacks by them, like I said, and what we have here, 9 sacks allowed by the Tennessee Titans, which is not a whole lot, but definitely they do give up a few sacks a game again. So I love it, man. I love the matchup. 7 fantasy points. They can get up high as 11. Of course, they had one bad one here against Cincinnati where they gave up 34 points, but that's the only game out of the 5 that they gave up that massive amount of points. And that will happen to be in Cincinnati. Granted, they're going to Tennessee. Cincinnati's offense is a way better offense than Tennessee's. We can't compare the two, all right? So the bottom line is, I believe they're in a very good spot here with a team that doesn't have a high-power offense, and they can be able to neutralize them enough on both sides of the ball defensively, passing-wise and rushing-wise. So Baltimore Ravens, second choice, and that is basically it. I'm going with those 2 teams. I think those are the best 2 teams outright for this matchup this week. And as far as getting you some possible fantasy points, we want to be able to get those turnovers and those sacks. Chicago, excellent in that aspect, and Baltimore just as good as well. And that's basically it, man. Those are my defenses. Those are my tight ends, man. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drop a like if you liked the video. Appreciate it. Share the videos. Talk to your friends about us here at DFS Zone. And most importantly, man, if you have not subscribed as of yet to the channel, please do so. Become a part of the DFS Zone family here. And make sure you put on those post notifications. This way you do not miss any of my NFL and NBA videos as well as live shows. All right. And with that, I wish you guys a good night. I'll see you guys on the next video.